Something extraordinary is coming. God is whispering to those who are listening. He has sent 3 unmistakable signs, and mark my words, 8. December will be a day that changes the course of your life. If you think this is just another message, think again. God is speaking directly to you, and He wants you ready for what is about to unfold. Beloved, have you ever felt that God is trying to tell you something, but you just can't put your finger on it? That moment is here. I tell you, the heavens have been speaking, and for those who have eyes to see and ears to hear, 8 December is not an ordinary day. It is a day when God will move mightily in ways that will shake destinies, open doors, and release blessings that you never imagined. Today I will share with you the 3 signs that God Himself has revealed. Signs that will prepare your heart, ignite your faith, and position you to step into the extraordinary. Beloved, the first sign that God is revealing to us is the sign of preparation. Hear me carefully. Preparation is not just about organizing your life, checking your schedules, or planning your finances. Preparation, in the eyes of God, is a deep spiritual alignment of your entire being with His will. It is the readiness of your heart to receive what only heaven can provide. You see, God never moves where there is resistance, and He never releases blessings to a soul that is unprepared. The story of God's people is filled with examples where preparation determined the outcome of divine favor. Think about Joseph in the prison, waiting for the right moment. Think about Moses, shepherding flocks for 40 years, unaware that God was training him for a mountaintop encounter that would change the destiny of a nation. Preparation is not passive. It is intentional, it is deliberate, and it is spiritual. I tell you, this preparation is both internal and external. Internally, it begins with your heart. God is looking at the hidden chambers of your soul. Are you ready to forgive those who have hurt you? Are you ready to let go of grudges, bitterness, and resentment? God cannot release His blessings into a heart that is divided, angry, or resentful. Your internal readiness requires confession, humility, and surrender. You must be willing to say, Lord, mold me, shape me, and prepare me for the greatness that you have destined for me. Internal preparation means purifying your motives. Sometimes blessings are delayed not because God is absent, but because our hearts are not yet aligned with His purpose. You might be praying, fasting, attending church, giving, and still not seeing breakthrough because there is something in your heart that needs refinement. The Lord is meticulous. He desires a vessel that is ready to contain the glory He wants to pour into your life. Externally, preparation is about action. God honors those who take the steps that correspond with His promises. Noah did not wait for the flood to rise before building the ark. He acted in obedience, even when the world mocked him. He built when it seemed unnecessary, but that obedience was the preparation that saved a generation. Likewise, your external preparation may require discipline in your work, diligence in your relationships, stewardship over your resources, and faithfulness in small tasks. God often tests our faith in what we consider insignificant because it is a reflection of how we will handle greater responsibilities. If you want to step into the extraordinary that God has planned, you must be faithful in the ordinary. Preparation is faith in action. It is believing in the unseen and taking steps toward it with confidence that God will bring it to pass. I want you to understand something crucial. God's preparation often involves periods of waiting, uncertainty, and even testing. It is in these seasons that your character is forged. Look at David before he became king. He was anointed, yes, but he did not sit on the throne immediately. He tended sheep, he faced giants, he fled from enemies, he faced betrayal. Each trial was part of the preparation that strengthened him for the divine assignment that awaited. In your life, the waiting, the delays, the struggles, these are not punishments. They are divine preparation. They are shaping your mind, your spirit, and your heart to receive a breakthrough that you cannot yet imagine. You must embrace the season of preparation as sacred. Do not despise it. Do not rush it. Trust that God is at work behind the scenes, orchestrating every detail to ensure that when the moment comes, you are ready to step into it with faith, confidence, and joy. Preparation also requires a mindset of vigilance. God warns us repeatedly in His Word to watch and be ready, for we do not know the hour of His move. You cannot be spiritually asleep and expect to recognize the signs that God is sending. Your eyes must be open to His guidance, your ears tuned to His whisper, and your heart sensitive to His leading. Spiritual preparation involves prayer, meditation on the Word, fasting, and constant communion with the Holy Spirit. It is not enough to know about God's power. You must cultivate a living relationship with Him. You must practice hearing His voice so that when the moment of breakthrough arrives, you will recognize it immediately. Many have missed divine opportunities because they were unprepared, distracted, or spiritually dull. God is calling you to rise above mediocrity and spiritual lethargy. He is calling you to be alert, disciplined, and ready. There is another dimension to preparation, aligning your environment and relationships with God's plan. Sometimes God prepares us by positioning us in the right places at the right times and surrounding us with people who will guide, support, and inspire us. Conversely, He may remove distractions, unhealthy influences, or toxic relationships. You may feel the loss or absence, but this too is part of preparation. God is clearing the path so that when He acts, nothing can hinder the flow of His blessings. Take this seriously. Look around your life and ask, Lord, am I in the place You want me to be? Are the people in my life strengthening my faith and purpose? Preparation involves discernment, choosing wisely, letting go wisely, and embracing wisely the things that God is placing before you. As we consider this sign, understand that preparation is not only for receiving blessings but also for sustaining them. God's plan is not just to give you something big on 8 December or any appointed time. His plan is to equip you to steward, manage, and expand the blessings so that they multiply and glorify Him. If you are unprepared, you might receive, but you may not hold or fully experience the impact of what God is giving. Preparation strengthens your endurance, your wisdom, and your faith. It ensures that what comes is lasting, transformative, and powerful. God desires not only a momentary miracle, but a lifetime of purpose fulfilled. I urge you to look at the signs God has already placed in your life. The open doors, the closed doors, the sudden opportunities, the lessons, the challenges, all are instruments of preparation. Do not despise small beginnings. Do not ignore the nudges of the Spirit. Every prayer answered, every obstacle overcome, every skill developed, every habit refined is a piece of preparation. God is meticulous in His planning, and nothing in your life is accidental. Every experience is shaping you to receive what He has promised. You may not see the full picture yet, but the Master Architect sees it clearly. The blueprint of your destiny is unfolding even now, and preparation is the foundation upon which it will stand. Remember this: preparation is a spiritual investment. Just as a farmer prepares the soil before planting seeds, you must prepare your heart, your mind, and your spirit to receive God's harvest. Without preparation, seeds fall on rocky ground. They wither or they fail to grow. But when preparation meets God's timing, the harvest is abundant, unstoppable, and miraculous. Every prayer you have prayed, every act of obedience you have shown, every moment of discipline and focus is cultivating a fertile ground for the blessings that are coming. You're not working in vain. You're not waiting in vain. God is moving, and your preparation is the key that will unlock the door to the extraordinary. Beloved, the second sign that God is revealing to us is the sign of unseen favor. Oh, how powerful this sign is. Many of us have prayed, labored, and waited for blessings, yet we cannot see how they are coming. That is exactly the point. God's favor often works in ways that are invisible to the human eye. It moves quietly behind the scenes, orchestrating circumstances, opening doors, and aligning people to fulfill His divine purpose. You see, favor is not always immediate or obvious. Sometimes it appears in disguise. It may come through unexpected people, unusual opportunities, or situations that seem contrary to what you are hoping for. But mark my words, when God's favor is upon you, it cannot be stopped. No opposition, no limitation, no human authority can overturn it. Favor is God's divine intervention in your life. It is not earned by works, cleverness, or manipulation. It is a gift, a supernatural alignment that positions you for blessing. Abraham experienced favor when Pharaoh welcomed him into Egypt, not because of Abraham's eloquence or power, but because God's presence was with him. Joseph experienced favor in Potiphar's house and later in prison, not because of his status, but because God's hand was upon him. My dear friends, favor is the invisible hand of God that carries you above circumstances, propels you past obstacles, and opens doors that no man can shut. The key to recognizing it is faith. Favor may appear slow or hidden, but it is always working, and it is always faithful to God's promise. The first dimension of unseen favor is relational. God often sends favor through people. It may be someone you least expect, a neighbor, a coworker, a stranger, or even a former adversary who becomes the channel of breakthrough in your life. You might have prayed for connections, for guidance, or for opportunities, and suddenly doors open that you could not engineer on your own. That is the favor of God at work. It is the divine appointment that aligns your life with destiny. Pay attention to those who enter your path unexpectedly, for God often uses ordinary people as vessels of extraordinary blessings. This is unseen favor moving quietly yet powerfully in your life. Favor is also a matter of timing. It is never too early and never too late. There are moments when God allows you to wait so that the impact of favor will be greater, more sustainable, and more transformative. Think of Esther, who waited patiently for the appointed moment to approach the king. Her favor was unseen as she served in the palace, but when the time came, she was placed in a position of influence that saved a nation. Similarly, your unseen favor may already be at work, quietly preparing the way, arranging circumstances, and positioning people to respond when the appointed hour arrives. You may not see it, but God is moving, and the delay is often a sign of divine precision. Unseen favor often challenges our human understanding. Sometimes it looks like setbacks, detours, or obstacles. Yet these very circumstances are designed to position you for favor. Joseph's journey from Potiphar's house to prison was not a failure. It was the invisible path that led him to Pharaoh's court. David's years tending sheep and fleeing from Saul were not wasted. They were the preparation for kingship. Beloved, when favor is at work, you cannot always read it with your eyes or measure it with human logic. It requires spiritual insight and unwavering trust. Favor may be subtle, quiet, and even hidden, but it is unstoppable because it comes from the Almighty God. Faith is the key to unlocking the impact of unseen favor. When God's favor is moving in your life, you must recognize it and act accordingly. Favor does not force itself on the unprepared. You must be sensitive to the Spirit, alert to opportunities, and bold in obedience. Favor demands a response. When the doors open, step through them without hesitation. When opportunities arise, seize them with courage. When God aligns people to help you, receive their support with humility and gratitude. Unseen favor is not a passive blessing. It is an invitation to actively participate in God's divine plan. Favor is also about empowerment. It strengthens you to overcome challenges that once seemed insurmountable. It brings resources, insight, and connections that you could never generate on your own. Think about Daniel in Babylon. He was in a foreign land, surrounded by opposition, yet the favor of God granted him wisdom, understanding, and favor in the sight of kings. The same favor that raised Daniel above his peers, elevated Joseph in Potiphar's house, and strengthened Esther in the palace is available to you. God's favor is not limited by your circumstances, your age, your education, or your resources. It operates supernaturally to bring victory, opportunity, and breakthroughs. The sign of unseen favor also teaches us the principle of gratitude. Favor is a gift, and gifts are meant to be received with thankfulness. When you recognize favor, express your gratitude to God and to those He is using as instruments in your life. Gratitude strengthens the flow of favor, magnifying its impact. Unseen favor grows when it is acknowledged and honored. It is a seed that multiplies when nurtured with thanksgiving, faith, and obedience. The more you recognize God's favor, the more it becomes evident and the more doors He opens for you. Another essential aspect of unseen favor is its unpredictability. God's ways are higher than our ways, and His blessings do not always come in the form or manner we expect. You may pray for financial provision, yet God provides favor in relationships, opportunities, or wisdom that lead to far greater abundance than you imagined. You may hope for healing, yet God sends favor in the form of guidance, protection, and circumstances that preserve your destiny. Unseen favor is often unconventional, surprising, and beyond comprehension. That is why faith is crucial. Faith allows you to trust God's timing, His methods, and His purpose, even when you cannot see the complete picture. Favor also moves in the area of reputation. God can elevate your name, giving you influence and respect in places you never anticipated. People who once ignored or doubted you may now acknowledge your authority and wisdom. Doors that were closed are now open. Networks previously inaccessible become available, and your presence is recognized in ways that honor God's plan. Unseen favor raises you quietly but powerfully, positioning you for impact in the kingdom of God and in the lives of those around you. Beloved, the sign of unseen favor is a call to expectancy. Expect God to work in ways that are beyond your imagination. Expect miracles in relationships, finances, health, and opportunities. Expect God's hand to intervene in situations that have seemed impossible. The promise of God's favor is sure and it is unwavering. It does not depend on human effort alone. It depends on God's perfect will and His supernatural ability to act in your favor. Your responsibility is to remain faithful, vigilant, and responsive to His movement, trusting that every unseen act of favor is preparing you for something greater than you can currently see. Finally, recognize that unseen favor is both a gift and a responsibility. When God bestows favor upon you, it is not only for your benefit, but also for the benefit of others. Favor positions you to bless, uplift, and impact lives around you. It is the conduit through which God's kingdom advances. When you walk in unseen favor, you are called to act in integrity, generosity, and humility, ensuring that the blessings multiply and glorify God. The favor of God is transformative. It changes circumstances, shifts destinies, and opens new realms of possibility that human hands cannot create. Beloved, the third sign that God is revealing to us is the sign of divine intervention. There are times in life when human effort, wisdom, and planning are not enough. There are moments when the problem is bigger than your strength, the obstacle taller than your courage, and the enemy stronger than your will. It is in these moments that God Himself steps in. Divine intervention is the supernatural hand of God breaking into the natural order, altering circumstances, and making a way where there seems to be no way. It is the manifestation of His power on your behalf, moving impossibilities into reality, shifting destinies, and changing the course of history in your personal life. This is the sign that cannot be ignored, for when God intervenes, everything changes instantly, and nothing can stop His plan. Divine intervention is often preceded by waiting. It is not sudden chaos, but the culmination of seasons of faith, prayer, and perseverance. Consider Daniel in the lion's den. For years, he had faithfully prayed, obeyed God, and aligned himself with divine principles. Then when the decree was made and the lions were ready to devour him, God intervened. The hand of God closed the mouths of the lions. Daniel's deliverance was not by human means. It was the supernatural intervention of God, a miracle that could only be attributed to His divine power. In your life, the prayers you have prayed, the tears you have shed, the fasting you have done, and the faith you have maintained are the foundations for God's intervention. Divine intervention requires preparation, but it arrives at the perfect time, exceeding every expectation. Intervention is God's answer to situations that seem hopeless. When the enemy surrounds you, when finances dwindle, when sickness threatens, when relationships break, and when opportunities appear lost, God can step in. His intervention does not always look like human solutions. Sometimes it is sudden, sometimes subtle, and sometimes dramatic, but it is always powerful and purposeful. The Israelites experienced divine intervention at the Red Sea. They were trapped, pursued, and afraid, but God parted the waters. What seemed impossible became possible, and what seemed inevitable became miraculous. Your own life may feel like a Red Sea situation right now. You may feel trapped, outnumbered, or overwhelmed, but divine intervention is on the way. God's intervention is often precise and intentional. It is not random or coincidental. Every detail is orchestrated by His wisdom. Joseph's release from prison was not a matter of chance. It was God's timing and intervention that placed him before Pharaoh. The same God who directed the path of Joseph, the same God who protected Daniel, and the same God who delivered the Israelites from Egypt is the God who intervenes in your life. He sees the beginning and the end, and nothing escapes His notice. Divine intervention is the assurance that God is intimately involved in every aspect of your journey, and His intervention will align with His perfect plan for your life. Intervention also brings deliverance from the enemy. There are spiritual battles raging that you cannot see. The forces of darkness often operate in secrecy, seeking to steal, kill, and destroy, but divine intervention is God stepping into the battlefield. It is God defeating your enemies before you even recognize the threat. David understood this when he faced Goliath. Though the giant towered above him and the army trembled, God intervened. With a sling and a stone, David defeated the giant, not by his own might, but by the supernatural intervention of God. This same power is available to you. When problems seem insurmountable, when opposition seems too strong, remember that God's intervention can reverse every situation. Intervention is also restorative. It does not merely stop the negative. It restores what has been lost and increases it beyond expectation. Job is a perfect example. After enduring immense suffering, loss, and despair, God intervened and restored Job's fortunes, health, and family, doubling everything he had lost. Divine intervention does more than repair. It transforms, renews, and multiplies. When God intervenes in your life, it is never partial. It is complete, abundant, and purposeful. Nothing is wasted, and every struggle becomes a testimony of His glory and power. Prayer is the key to activating divine intervention. God invites you to call on Him, to trust Him, and to align your requests with His will. Elijah prayed on Mount Carmel, and God answered with fire from heaven, consuming the altar and demonstrating His power over Baal. The same God hears your prayers, and He is ready to intervene when your faith is strong, your heart is aligned with His purposes, and your spirit is persistent in seeking Him. Divine intervention is rarely passive. It requires your engagement through prayer, obedience, and faith-filled action. It is both a gift and a response to your trust in Him. Divine intervention is often accompanied by signs and wonders. It leaves no doubt that it is God at work. The miracles in the Bible, water turning into wine, the blind receiving sight, the dead being raised, these were all acts of intervention that revealed God's power and His care for His people. In your life, divine intervention may manifest as unexpected provision, sudden healing, unforeseen opportunities, or miraculous deliverance from danger. When you see the evidence, you recognize the hand of God moving in ways that cannot be explained by human understanding. Intervention also brings clarity. In times of confusion, uncertainty, and indecision, God can intervene to make the path clear. Gideon faced a confusing and overwhelming situation with the Midianites. He did not know how to proceed, but God intervened, giving him guidance, strategy, and assurance of victory. Divine intervention is not limited to miraculous deliverance. It also includes wisdom, insight, and discernment. When God intervenes, He illuminates the path, removes obstacles, and provides clarity that human reasoning alone cannot achieve. Beloved, divine intervention is a sign of God's intimate involvement in your life. It reminds you that you are not alone, that your struggles are seen, and that your faithfulness matters. The hand of God is powerful, precise, and purposeful. He intervenes to protect, to provide, to restore, to elevate, and to fulfill His promises. Your responsibility is to remain faithful, alert, and expectant. Do not grow weary or disheartened when challenges persist, for the hand of God is moving even when you cannot see it. Every obstacle you face, every enemy you confront, and every limitation you encounter is an opportunity for divine intervention to display God's glory. Intervention often comes with timing that is perfect and unexpected. God may delay, not because He is absent, but because He is preparing the perfect moment for maximum impact. Esther's deliverance of her people occurred at exactly the right time, when the king's heart was ready and the enemy's plot was fully revealed. Divine intervention works with precision and wisdom that surpasses human understanding. Your breakthrough may be imminent, even if the situation seems impossible.